or is introductions to these videos still super like awkward and stiff. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rena and today I will be doing a book talk on Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the first book, The Lightning Thief by Riordan. I first want to say that I know that the first hardcover edition of this book came out in 2005. When it came to books when I was younger, I was sort of a hipster in the sense that if it was a bandwagon, I didn't jump on until like years later. That's why when I first started reading the Twilight Saga, I was super all over that. Like I was super into it. Like I was all about the Twilight Saga until it started getting super famous. Then I was one of those people that as soon as Twilight got famous, I hated it because it was so famous and it was so well known. I was kind of like, I knew about that way before you did. I was so hipster at that time. There was a lot of hype for Percy Jackson when it first came out. I didn't jump on right away, so I'm just now reading the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. For those of you who haven't read or even heard about the Percy Jackson series, don't worry, there are other people out there, people like me. But for those of you who don't know what the Percy Jackson series is about, it is a middle grade urban fantasy based around Greek gods and the gods of Olympus. The first two books, The Lightning Thief and The Sea of Monsters, there are movie adaptations to it with Logan Lerman. Our main character, Percy, is a 12-year-old troubled kid. Every school that he's been in, he's been kicked out. He has ADHD, he has dyslexia, and this is all because he finds out later on that he is a half-blood. Now what that means is that he is the son of a Greek god, and you find out that it is Poseidon, the god of the sea. So after an incident, Percy is rushed to a summer camp, Camp Half-Blood, where there are other kids of Greek gods residing there. They can train, they're protected, they're safe. As the summer is slowly starting to pass, Percy finds out about a prophecy in an oncoming war between Poseidon, the god of sea, and Zeus, the god of the sky. As it turns out, Zeus's famous lightning bolt is stolen, as you can take from the title of the book, The Lightning Thief. And Zeus believes that Percy is this lightning thief. As the book progresses, you follow Percy as he travels to California to go to the underworld to retrieve Zeus's stolen lightning bolt from Hades. As Percy travels to the west coast to California to go to the underworld to face his uncle, Hades, he is accompanied by his best friend, Grover, who just so happens to be a satyr. And he is also accompanied by his niece. If I had to go by bloodline, technically she's his niece. A girl named Annabeth Chase, and she just so happens to be the daughter of Athena, the goddess of wisdom. And yeah, that's basically the summary of the book. Although this book is intended for middle graders, I found it very entertaining. I found this to be like a 5 out of 5 star book. I absolutely loved it. I love Rick Riordan's writing style. I love his foreshadowing. I love how he decided to take the narration and put it into the perspective of a 12-year-old boy. Our main character, Percy, is hilarious. He is so sassy. He is so sarcastic. He is a great main character. A lot of people find that to be like an annoying quality for especially for a 12-year-old, but for me, I found it so entertaining because he was so light. He never took anything too seriously. So for me, I loved this story. It was very engaging. It was fun. There was adventure. There were fights. There were these 3 kids, basically kids, kind of teens. Well, Grover is like, he's 22, but you know, these 3 friends that are traveling across the country, battling all sorts of monsters, and it was a very good read. There were some tangents in the story where they started talking about Greek mythology and some of the stories in Greek mythology, like how Athena and Poseidon did butt heads when they were trying to become the god of Athens, how Ares and Aphrodite were lovers, and her husband was always trying to catch them and embarrass them to try to teach them humility and a lesson about having an affair and things like that. And it was it was such a good story. Like, when I was younger, I was always fascinated with Greek mythology because there were lessons to be learned in these stories. An all around great book. I absolutely loved it. For me, I would definitely give it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I did give it a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I'm definitely excited to see where this story goes, and I'm excited to see how Percy grows as a character, and it was just, I had a lot of fun reading this book. So yeah, please, if you haven't read it, if you're like me, that waited 11 years to read this series, definitely don't wait a minute longer. Go out, pick it up, go get the ebook, go borrow it from a friend. Please go pick up this series. And that'll be it for my non-spoiler review, I guess-ish. If you haven't read the book and you do fully intend on going out and getting yourself a copy and reading it, I suggest you leave this section of the video if you don't want to get spoiled. It was an emotional roller coaster for me, especially towards the end of the book. I know I should start a review chronologically. I should do it like that, but the first thing I definitely want to jump into is the ending of the book where Percy does meet his dad. He goes and actually gets to talk to Poseidon. Like, that's that scene kind of slowly, like, shoved a stake into my heart. Like, I felt like I was dying slowly because here is Percy traveling across the country trying to clear his father's name. Even though his real motive was to get back his mom, he was still at the same, like, he knowingly went out knowing that he's going to go out and clear his father's name. It's sad for me because, especially, like, after he meets his dad's kind of like, yeah, it was a mistake for me to fall in love with your mom and have you as a kid. And you're kind of just like, Poseidon, you're meeting this boy for the first time ever, and this is the first thing you're gonna say to him. You're killing him. Oh my god, why? Like, at this point of the book, or this point in the series, I don't know how I feel about Poseidon because here he is breaking his son's heart. The first time he absolutely meets him, like, Poseidon, you're kind of a dick. Like, you're an asshole, dude. Just a little bit, dude. The one thing that I did have a problem with in this book is that Percy's kind of, even though, like, he's a sarcastic kid, he's a sassy kid, and that's one thing that I will love about him. He does kind of do things where it's like, don't do that, or do what you're told. Just stick to what the plan is. Don't try to veer the path. And the one scene that he can attest to that stubbornness and persistence is when they go to Aunt M's Emporium, and Annabeth has this, she has this overbearing feeling where things are not, like, things aren't right. Something's not right in this woman's home or her shop or whatever, and she's trying to, like, push Percy to get out of there and not take food from a stranger. Or that's rule number one, Percy. Don't, if you're on a quest where you know you're being hunted by monsters of all sorts, don't sit down and try to have a meal, dude. There's so much that happens in this book that wasn't even mentioned in the movie. And I know that's so weird to compare, because, you know, there are cases where sometimes the movie is a little bit better than the book, but 99% of the time it's going to be the book is better than the movie. And this was definitely one of those cases where there was so much more action in the book than there was in the movie. Like, they didn't even mention the Chimera scene where they're at the top of the arc and Percy ends up being alone with this strange woman. Ding 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 ding. Percy, that's a no-no. Again, you're being chased by monsters across the country. Why would you decide to stay behind and be alone with strangers when you know you're being hunted? Another thing I will say about Aunt M's Emporium, or, you know, the Medusa scene, is that I did kind of feel sorry for Medusa a little bit, because she starts talking about, when she's talking to the kids, she's talking about how she used to have sisters and now she's all alone. And in the Greek mythology stories, Medusa did have, you know, she was the queen of the Gorgons. She did have sisters by her side. And, you know, it is modern day. We're not supposed to take it literally, you know, word for word from the story, but at this point in time, Medusa is alone. She is by herself. She is no one to, you know, she is no one. The funny thing is that I read somewhere that according to Greek men, they saw that Athena was so disgusted with Medusa that that's the reason she placed the curse on her. When in reality, Greek women saw it as Athena gave Medusa the power to never be hurt by men again, you know what I mean? In Greek mythology, Medusa was assaulted. She was assaulted by Poseidon inside of Athena's temple because she was a maiden. She was a priestess for Athena. That's why she can only, you know, she can only freeze men, because it's her curse slash gift to only harm men because men pose a bigger threat to women. That's my tangent about Greek mythology and Medusa. I really feel like I'm ranting so much about this book right now. The one thing that I absolutely did love about this story is that, well, just like two more things I definitely can say I love about this story. I love how Riordan, he did leave slightly on a cliffhanger in the sense where he was setting up for the rest of the series, where Kronos is definitely going to try to fight back to power. Kronos is using Luke as a pawn. He used through Luke. He did use Ares as a pawn. It was an amazing setup. Number two that I'm going to say that I absolutely loved about this book was Hades. For me, there are two Greek stories that I absolutely loved, and that is one, Medusa's story, and two, Hades' story. Hades got the short end of the stick when it came to claiming kingdoms and fighting the war with their father. Here was Hades, who gave the most of his powers to help fight and win the war, but he ended up with the shittiest job. And what I absolutely loved, the thing that I absolutely loved that Rick Riordan did for Hades was show that Hades was a god of, in a sense, humility. Hades was basically casted out. He's only allowed to go to Olympus during the winter solstice, the one day out of the entire year. He's allowed to go home. What I absolutely love that Rick Riordan did for him was that he gave Hades Mount Olympus in the underworld. He's shackled by his job in the sense where he has to make subdivisions for the dead. I don't know, for me, Hades is definitely right now my favorite god. Hades is my favorite god even before reading Percy Jackson. Hades was always my favorite god. One last thing. This is absolutely my last thing. No more things after this. That I absolutely loved about the Percy Jackson series, or the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series, is how Rick Riordan took Greek gods and modernized them. So yeah, that was my opinion and my tangent about my love for Hades, the awesome Medusa story, the fact that Percy is a badass. As you definitely can tell, I definitely absolutely love this book, and I have been wanting to do more book reviews recently, and after reading this one I was like, I'm definitely gonna do a review of this book. And as you can see, I have many things to say about Greek mythology and Percy Jackson, and I can go on talking about Greek mythology forever. If you are watching the spoiler section of my video, I definitely hope that you have read it, and you have read it, I definitely hope you agree with my thoughts and love of this book. So yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like my video. If you're interested in hearing my thoughts and seeing my other videos, definitely hit subscribe down in the bottom bar there. Leave a comment also down below if you have read this book, or if you haven't read this book, and what your thoughts are on it. And I would definitely love to hear what you guys thought about how this review went and stuff like that, and you know, I guess. Thanks so much for watching. Bye! Clear your name, Uncle, don't worry. You're sort of a douche. Like, a swerve in the story.